Let's start with the horizontal, let's do the vertical asymptotes. Vertical asymptotes happen where you have divide by zero problems, okay? So if we factor the bottom to give us a better picture, you can take an x out of both terms. You have x squared minus 4 left over. So there's actually three numbers that would cause divide by zero problems. If you plugged in x equals 0, I'm only looking at this term here, 0 would distribute and make everything else be 0, and you'd be dividing by 0. If you plug in x equals 2, then 2 squared is 4. 4 minus 4 makes 0, and 0 times 2 would also make 0. And then one last one, x equals negative 2, that would also cause a divide by 0 error. So we got those three vertical asymptotes. Okay. For horizontal asymptotes, check out my videos on horizontal asymptotes if this is your first time learning about them. But horizontal asymptotes work by a simple idea. If the highest power is bigger in the denominator, then y equals 0 is your horizontal asymptote. Okay. If the power is bigger in the numerator, there's no horizontal asymptote. There might be something called a slant asymptote, but there's no horizontal asymptote in that case. If the powers are the same, it's a ratio of the leading coefficients. But this one, the power is bigger than the bottom because the power up here is x to the 0. This is x to the third. So that follows that rule where it's always y equals 0 if the power is bigger in the denominator. And then intercepts, let's do the x-intercept. X-intercepts happen where the graph crosses the x-axis, so we want to find out the x value when y equals 0. So if I plug in 0 where our y values go, if I try to solve, I'm going to multiply both sides by x times x squared minus 4. Because if you multiply that here, that cancels it out, helps us try to get x by itself, but oh no, that cancels out. We get a false statement, but we use balanced steps to get to this false statement. So that means there's no x-intercept for this graph, okay? It's not going to cross the x-axis. Y-intercepts happen when you plug in 0 in for x. So if I plug in 0 in here, 0 minus 0 is 0. We can't divide by 0, so there's no y-intercepts. So this graph, when we graph it in Desmos, should neither cross the x nor the y-axis. What do we got? 3 x to the third minus, oh, I forgot what it was. X to the third minus 4x. So it's not crossing the x-axis, it's not crossing the y-axis, just like we expected. Okay, and so there's a sketch of the graph. We know where the vertical asymptotes are, and to know exactly what the behavior is after it, I mean, rational functions are pretty tough to do. You could plug in some test points, but it takes a lot of time. So graphing the more complicated ones in Desmos is perfectly fine.